The truth has finally been revealed as to what happened with Charlie McAvoy in this season, which ultimately resulted in him missing the second half of the season. We're going to be breaking this down. He had some very emotional quotes. We're going to be going over this report, going over what he had to say here in all of this ideas, and what happened to him here in this video. Now, very quickly before we jump into it, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We know it's a percentage of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot for all of your Boston Bruins news here this offseason, we're going to have it right here for you. We're going to have so much stuff to cover, you will not want to miss it. But no any further ado, let's get straight into this video. Starting off here with a quote from Charlie McAvoy about what went down, kind of his emotional side of this. He said, mentally, emotionally, physically, I've gone through so much because of that damn experience. It cost me my season. It cost me my sanity in a lot of ways. And I mean, just from this fan experience, we know that he struggled through this injury. The uncertainty of it happening in the Four Nations Faceoff, his emotions throughout the season. He's been a leader on this team for quite some time, and this just resulted once again in another injury that really he could not do anything about. But we're going to get into what happened here. And Charlie McAvoy, we have another quote from him in a bit, kind of detailing his experience with it once again. But here's what the issue was. He had sustained an injury to his right shoulder, the AC joint, in the game against Finland on February 13th. Underwent treatment, played against Canada 2 days later, but the pain wasn't presenting like the AC joint injury, with a marked redness creeping up his shoulder. It was confusing doctors and leaving McAvoy in tremendous pain. Going on, he went to Massachusetts General Hospital, where he underwent x-rays, MRI, and blood work, and was diagnosed with an infection necessitating an irrigation and debridement February 18th. Now, this is what we really knew. We knew this was all happening. We knew that at this point he was week to week in the whole process, and we didn't really hear much about that until after. The Bruins were saying that he was going to be week to week, hopefully he'd return soon, and ultimately we know now did not return, and of course what happened really makes sense that he did not, but McAvoy had this to say about his whole experience. None of this has been easy, and I get emotional when I talk about it. Look, it was an incredible experience. I waited my whole life to be a part of something like that, but the way that it ended and the aftermath of it and what I had to go through, it cost me a lot more than I was willing to give, and that's unfortunate. But it's over now, and now I can finally put it to bed, and after we talk about it, I don't want to talk about it ever again because it costed me a lot. McAvoy, once again, very, very emotional about this, and it really goes to show how, this season impacted the Boston Bruins. He wasn't playing, he couldn't have played, and, just kind of added to a fuel to the fire for this season for the Boston Bruins, and going from where we were to what he was experiencing to what we knew was some very different topics, because we knew that he was out. We didn't really know what it was. We knew it was a shoulder. We knew he had a little operation on it, not a surgery, but something to, get a staph infection cleared up is what we heard. And this is what we were looking at right here. He had contracted a rare staph infection, though no one, including the head of infectious diseases at Massachusetts General Hospital, is quite sure exactly how it was introduced. There was an injection to try and numb the area, a common procedure, then came the infection. So, once again, I'm no doctor, so this means gibberish to me. This means absolutely nothing, but even looking at this, just reading that the head of infectious diseases at Massachusetts General Hospital didn't know what was going on, really just, makes me feel so bad for Charlie McAvoy, knowing how not just his season, but his career has gone this far. And I will kind of jump into those here now in a little bit, kind of touch on that a bit, but let's go into the Four Nations Faceoff. Being an alternate captain in that, being an alternate captain on the Bruins, being ahead of the season, excited about the Bruins team, thinking they could go to the Stanley Cup Finals, and looking where we are now, eliminated, seeing all this stuff come out, seeing his friends get traded while he couldn't play. Things just kind of took a major turn for him, and it really makes a lot of sense where all this emotion comes from. And, just speaking of this, makes me feel so bad for him. And I want to pull up his games played over his career. And when we look at these, I mentioned this in the previous video as well. He has never played a full season, a full 82-game season, I should mention, in the NHL. And just once again, goes to show the amount of luck this guy has is not even, it's not even fit. The amount of luck he has is not possible to have. He's been so unlucky in his career with injuries, with everything like that, and just kind of, shoulders and your wrists and everything that could get hurt, it has for him, and he just seems to be not being able to catch a break, and it just goes to show by the seasons he's having. The closest he had was that 78-game season in 21-22, missing a few games there, which ultimately was only 4, but still, you're looking at that, looking up the points he's putting up in those seasons by only playing, a few amount of games. When you're putting 504 games into, a close on 10-year career, it really just goes to show how many games he's missed due to these injuries and due to, just the amount of on luck that he's been having as of late and over his career. But we're looking at the defense as well. He was seriously missed. There was no doubt about that. The fans wanted him to come back. We're not happy with the U.S. team doctors. I believe they were the Minnesota Wild doctors about the whole situation. But looking back at this now, there was not much it seemed like they could have done if they had not known what was going on. It makes sense that, they were trying to get him to play. Obviously, he wanted to play. I'm sure he was pushing the doctors to play. But looking at that, if it was just something that was, visual, obviously he would try and play. But now that we know what it was, really just kind of crazy the way it all played out. But when we're missing 2 of your top defensemen, Elias Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy, trading Brandon Carlo, this Bruins defense lost a lot this season. And I'm very excited to see Charlie McAvoy back next season. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully everything runs good with him. And hopefully you have a full defense back. Pairing him with Elias Lindholm, doing something to get this defense back to where it was to start this season, even though it may not have produced at 100%. They need to be back at a full system to begin the next season, and we're going to have to go from there. I think it's going to be a very busy season when it does come down to it, because when we go and look at, of course, the Bruins cap space on X, you're looking at the defense there. McAvoy and Lindholm, both 5 years remaining on their deals, going to be on that top pairing, likely. Zadorov, Yoki Haru, who is a UFA, still calling for him to re-sign. I think there's a few options there for the Boston Bruins, but given how the way that made Zadorov play in that whole line in the rest of the season, I think Nikita Zadorov played very, very good here in that season, and maybe it works out. You never know. And Mason Lohrei, of course, has been a great defenseman. Andrew Peeke. If we look at this defense, this is a top-tier defense in the NHL if all are playing to their top level. I think that we're going to see that at some point next season. So let me know what you think, first of all, about McAvoy. Kind of speaking out about this. Obviously, some very tough stuff to hear coming from him. You know how emotional he was. We were emotional when we saw the whole injury, the way it played out, and the way that he missed the season, because we knew his history, and we knew his injury history, and he wanted to be there. So let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about what he said, and what do you think about this injury that he went? If any of you guys are doctors watching this video in the comments below, let me know, any theories about what you think this could have stemmed from. It might not be a very easy thing since the head of infectious diseases didn't know what it was at Massachusetts General Hospital, but let me know what you think in the comments below. But I have one more final thing before I finish this video off. Charlie McAvoy was the King Clancy Memorial Trophy nominee for the Boston Bruins, so hopefully he does win that, of course, and congratulations to him on this. Voted for one of the best players in the community for the team, and of course, that's where Charlie McAvoy is known best for him. That on the ice is skill, but also in the community, he's been a big part of that in his Bruins tenure. So let me know anything about all of this news here in this video, but that's all I got. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well, but I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.